Hello, everybody. This is Ahmed. We're doing show here this week. A lot of things happening. This is Saturday. I think this is what, 20th, May 20th. Beautiful, sunny outside. A lot of things happening on the local level and national, international level. Of course, we have the Arab League summit, whatever the Mu'tamar al-Wasakha, Bashar now is becoming a mainstream, the criminal, war criminal, the man who killed hundreds of thousands of his own people. Now welcomed by Arab leagues. And of course, the Arab leagues now runs by thugs and runs by mass murders. Bin Salman and Sisi and Qais bin whatever that guy is. Uh, so I don't know what the purpose of having the Arab League and welcoming Bashar Assad as a hero, an Arab hero, normalizing mass murder and criminals, and then the Ukrainian president also stopped by and you know. Kind of asking for more support against Russia and asking for more weapon. Of course, this is all concentrated by the Americans and the Israelis. They cannot directly say that or support the Ukrainian with certain weapons. So the Arabs they don't use these weapons anyway. This is a very sophisticated weapon. Billions of dollars spent on those weapons from Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and Egypt. Well, they don't use it because they only use the weapons to suppress their own people. We don't need F-16 to do that. So they're going to send it to Ukraine. And it's a complicated. We don't know what's going on. And now the new bloc Turks and Turkey and Qatar and one block and the rest of the Arab world in one block. And, it's just all to stifle the Palestinian and normalize relationship with Israel. So criminal racism, a lot of things been normalized now. Nothing really serious. Nothing is shocking anymore. We have Trump now on CNN bragging about his accomplishment and bragging about his crimes and making fun of victims of rape and it just what it used to be appalling and where we used to be criminal, millions of dollars spent on criminalizing and beaching this guy, and he's still running around. He is a front runner in the Republican Party. He is almost 30, 40 points ahead of anybody. So Republican Party becoming a racist, an openly racist, anti-gay, anti-women, anti-workers, just nothing really from under the table anymore. It's talked to him about how our legal system been politicized and how our Supreme Court, where six Ayatollah now sitting there to draft and protect the market and the economic elites. So stick with us, stay with us. We're going to have Professor David Schultz from Lavius very shortly. So,
how are you today?
Very well, very well. So where are you now?
I am in Riga, Latvia.
I have no idea where that is.
Okay. Do you know where Finland? Do you know where Finland is?
Give me a relative
okay.
to Hamlin University. Start from there.
Okay. I am 4,000 miles east of Hamlin University. Where I am right now, I'm in Riga, Latvia. Latvia will be west of Russia, north of Lithuania, south of Finland, east of Poland. I am right on the edge of where all the major things are going on because about a few hundred kilometers south of me is Ukraine. So I'm right at that place where the conflict is has heated up.
So what are you doing there? I mean, teaching?
So I'm teaching at the University of Latvia Law School. I'm on a 1 month Fulbright here to be teaching,
Wow.
and so my job is a couple of things. One is to try to explain to Latvian students American constitutional law, and then also try to explain to them um, the fine way we elect a president in the United States through the Electoral College and all these weird things. And so I'm based out of Riga, which is actually a quite charming city. It's a city of about 700,000 people.
Oh,
It's a small country, by the way. The entire country's population is only about 2 million people, so it's a very small country.
well, it was part of the Soviet Union,
Yes.
and then hell broke loose. But how I know that was not our topic today, but you're talking about the American constitutions, and we have issues here. So, what is the students' reaction to the politicization of our Supreme Court, and how politics now dominating our legal system?
Well, that's actually interesting because that was actually one of the most important questions that my students were asking, because I explained to them, and for our audience here, I'm both a law professor and I'm also a political science professor. So I kind of live in two different worlds.
Yeah.
And I always approach the law from asking to what extent is the Supreme Court just a political institution? And to what extent is the Supreme Court are the Supreme Court justices just a bunch of politicians with robes? And it used to be harder to make the argument that it was political, but now we're looking at a 6-3 Supreme Court that pretty much thinks that unless you're white, male, and Christian and rich, you don't have any rights. And so the students in Latvia are asking that because the talk that I gave last week was on reproductive rights and abortion rights. And we're moving in the opposite direction compared to the rest of the world, which is saying we ought to protect reproductive rights. We ought to protect bodily integrity. People should
Well,
be able to make their own choices.
we're going closer to Iran now. I mean,
Oh yeah, oh
those
yeah.
are our ayatollahs.
Yeah, I was gonna say is that I guess we've got our religious council. They got their religious council at this point. One of the things I also pointed out, which is really kind of an irony, at a time when in the United States, um, with the newer generations coming up, like the millennials and Gen Z, we're looking at smaller and smaller percentage of the US population considering themselves to be Christian or religious. We're becoming a much more secular society. At the same time that that's happening, our six, I don't know what we going to call them, our six ayatollahs on the Supreme Court are bent on giving more and more protection to religion and less and less protection in this case, to women's rights. And so I guess I don't know what was it. I read Iran executed 3 more people in the last couple of days. We're not quite directly executing them, but condemning women to having to carry pregnancies that they don't want. I guess that's kind of a death sentence anyhow. And it could, and literally, I mean, some states now are saying no exceptions for sexual assault or mother's health. So in some ways, we are condemning women to death.
Uh, there was in some governor, they have laws now allowing child labor. People
Yeah.
minor can work and they don't need the permission, and they can be taken abused by longer hours. There is no oversight. So this is another regression. So as those conservative and the Ayatollah and Supreme Court, they are looking at women's rights, reproductive rights, and protecting unborn babies. They really don't care about the born one, as long the business. So is it really religion, or this is a capitalist system crafting laws to help corporation to dominate our political and social landscape?
Well, I clearly think it is a combination of a corporate Supreme Court supporting capitalism, but also a court that is in many ways taking seriously the idea that we should respect the framers' intents from 1787 when the Constitution was written, was basically means what? The only people who have rights are people who what? Own slaves, who were rich, who were business people, et cetera, et cetera. So in some sense, if you accept an argument, which I do, that the Constitution was an economic document to support an American aristocracy, this Supreme Court's doing a pretty good job in terms of upholding that. So these are the kind of things I was trying to explain to my Latvian students. Now, the other thing that I did, I was supposed to do a trip to Berlin to also give a talk about the coming presidential election. I had to do the talk remotely by Zoom because within a few hours of me getting ready to go to Berlin, the transportation workers announced a nationwide strike. And so there was going to be like no way once I flew in, I could get anywhere. So Germans are also perplexed by our political system. And they're kind of, I'll do what they're doing. They're kind of scratching their head. They're saying, how does a country like yours elect Donald Trump? And why does he have a chance of winning again? And it's like, that's a darn good question.
Well, it's interesting that people are around the world. They are more interested in what's going on in our political decay and
Yeah.
decadence and political pimping to our corporation. But I think they are more tuned with what's going on than our general public here, where they are really light knowledge and tribal about how they select their president. So electing a former, electing Trump again, which everybody is thought that was a far fetch. It was spending millions of dollars to try to impeach this guy, and all the states are after him. Legal problem, alleged rape, racist. I mean, he was golfing yesterday, and an Israeli's flag was waving here in America.
Yeah.
And he told the guy, "We gave you the Golan Heights." So the guy is like a rich, brat child that's his playing with his poops for out of boredom. He can say anything, he can get away with anything. So how racism and kind of sexism and Islamophobia becoming a mainstream? He was on town hall, whatever they call, on CNN, not even on Fox. So.
Well, you're right. So, I mean, let's just add to the list here. It's not just Trump. It's not that Assad. You also have what? It looks like Erdogan's going to probably win again in Turkey, and he's clearly appealing to nationalism. And so the opposition, how are they going to try to win? They're going to out nationalism by nationalism, because they're now saying, well, if we get elected, we're going to throw all the immigrants out of the country.
Yeah.
Then you've got, of course, Marianne Le Pen in France. You've got Orban in Hungary. Hate seems to be fashionable right now.
A lot of business in hate, not love.
Exactly correct there at this point. And part of it, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons I would argue for it. Part of it is the nature of, I don't know, I used to call it advanced capitalism. I'm not sure what I really call it now, but the idea that especially since the 1970s, the gap between the rich and poor domestically has expanded. Globally, we've done nothing to address what we used to call, I'm not sure what the appropriate term is now. We used to call it the North-South divide, or first world, third world divide. Again, I'm not sure what the appropriate language is now, but we've done nothing to address, inequality, across the world. And the way I describe it in the United States is that starting in the 1970s, the gap between the rich and poor gets greater and greater. Uh, uh, Working class are voting for Democrats and it's getting worse. They vote Republican, it gets worse. And so some guy stands up named Donald Trump and says, there's a reason why you're getting screwed over. It's those dirty Muslims. It's those dirty foreigners, fill in the blank, et cetera, et cetera. So race becomes the scapegoat for for capitalism and its problems. And think about it. What's the difference between saying the problems are the immigrants, between saying that and saying the problem, this is the 1930s in Germany, it was the Jews? I don't know about you. Tell me if I'm wrong here. I don't see much difference between it.
Most of the mass monstrous crime was committed by people who follow the law, middle of the law. They were not our law, other than a military or police, or so our legal system is not monitoring the market or monitoring the corporation abuses. No, it's the other way around. So that's
Yeah, yeah,
the part.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's this great myth that what law controls politics or law controls the economy. That's a myth. As you're pointing out, it's the other way around. It's the imperatives of capitalism. It's the imperatives of pursuit of profit that drive the law, that drive our political system. And so you're absolutely right, is that we find people who can find all kinds of ways of contorting the law. I mean, it's not just Putin. Putin, makes sure everything is, quote, legal. What? He annexes Crimea. So he has what? Crimea do a vote to say, we want to become part of Russia or something. Well, we do the same thing. There's a cartoon I'm trying to find. It was in the Village Voice back in the 1970s, and I can't find it. And the cartoon was called The Invention of Law. And it talks all about how the cavemen discovered that law would be a great idea and how we then expanded law to everything, like what the law of gravity, the law of playing sports, et cetera, et cetera. But the final scene says, and law applied everywhere except the highest levels of government.
Society was stronger than the state. Now it is
Right.
the state, mother state, is really controlling everything. So that includes the law.
But I'm going to push it even further. I think it's not just the state is controlling society. I take it one step further and say the economy is driving the state. At the end of the day, again, the imperatives of uh, of corporate America, of international corporations, really drives policy. And I want to bring it home to an example here. Think about an exercise in pure corporate power in Minnesota in the last couple of weeks. Mayo Clinic saying that we do not want rules applied to us regarding nursing staffing. And if you do that, we're going to leave the state. And so what happened in the legislation that the Minnesota legislature is adopting right now, they've exempted Mayo Clinic from those rules. All the other hospitals have to follow. That's power. That's raw power
Under
right there.
Governor Wells, the progressive Democrat that is a hero of our liberal here,
Yeah.
happening under his nose.
Yes, and he's going to sign that legislation.
And Mayo Clinic, is this a for-profit organization or
It's not supposed to be for profit.
like insurance company, whatever?
Yeah, it takes all of its profits, quote profits, and plows it back into whatever it does down in Rochester.
Research.
But nonetheless, it's one of the largest corporations probably in Minnesota. And as many people know, people come from around the world, for healthcare there. Uh, Mayo is saying that we plan on investing billions of dollars to make this what's their slogan, destination medical or something like that. Where people come around the world for there.
Tourism.
But yeah, we're like that. Yeah, medical tourism. I think that's the phrase here. But guess what? Don't regulate us, because if you regulate us, we're not going to invest here. And so the good corporate liberals in Minnesota said, okay, well, we will back off. We will back off, and we will exempt you.
As a professor or a student of history, I've always have issue with the Western rationale that was stripped out of values. As long as it's making sense economically or whatever, it is applied. Racism makes sense. It was rational. Stripped out of value, human or slave. Uh, Dropping a bomb. Speaking of dropping a bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that was last week, a couple of days ago. And Biden was asked to apologize. He said, I'm not going to apologize. They say 70% or the majority of American people think dropping the bomb was necessary to save lives. So that's the
Right.
rationale. What's the rationale?
American lives.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point. And
That's right.
so this is really this is a problematic issue when you apply rationale all the time, which everybody think applying rationale or being rational is a good thing, but it's not always a good thing. Rationale has to be tied to some values. You
That's right.
cannot just freedom of expression. Everybody, no, you have to have some values. But if you can justify slavery and dropping bombs and invading Vietnam, Iraq, this is always rationale stripped out of values. So this is a very scary stuff.
Just to play devil's advocate here, we do actually have a set of values. And those values are what? Capitalist in nature. And therefore, the whole concept of rationality, efficiency, what is it? What is it? Means to end, whatever phrase I'm looking for,
Yeah, yeah.
makes sense if you assume that the values or the imperatives are capitalistic and hegemonic for the United States. Then from that perspective, they make sense. Now, we could also make a different argument and say, I think what you're making here is that we've got rationality disembodied or decapitated from values, and what you get at that point is something completely ungrounded. My favorite example that I use when I talk to students regarding what is it, rationality gone crazy or something? It's going to take us back in time.
I call it
Remember?
the what do you call that? The strip jacket of nationality. Sometimes it just hide you
Yeah,
up
yeah,
and get out of it.
yeah, yeah. But I was going to say, you and I remember, because we taught together in a business school for a while. Remember the famous Ford Pinto case where Ford said that, yeah, we know that the rear placement of a gas tank is going to kill people. We know that it's going to cost $7 to move it, but let's do a cost benefit analysis. Yeah, so we kill a few hundred people, we injure a few, we pay it out, but guess what? It's cheaper to pay out than it is to redesign the car. We're going to make money. And so to me, I use that as my quintessential example of Western rationality gone crazy, because from a cost benefit perspective, where, I think, was it Ford said, yeah, a human life is $200,000, no big deal or something like that.
Rationality. Yeah. What is
Well,
what?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, before that, capitalism and modern life technology and the free market thinking, it was tied to some tradition and value,
right,
the church or whatever the case was. So they liberated people from the dominant and oppression of the church and
right,
oppression. However, it's not really when you're talking about the separation of the church and the state or the religion and the state. It's not really separation of it's separation the values
right,
from the state, from whatever decision you are making. and people are free. They can think freely. They don't have to listen to Ayatollah or an imam or a priest. Now, the new Ayatollah, the new imam, the new church is a marketplace.
Yes.
They are victims of millions of dollars spent. I think I read the statistics somewhere that our corporation has spent more money to invade our teens' mind than
Yes.
invading Iraq.
Early 20th century is Walter Benjamin. And he made this argument that what capitalism does, and I think it's a similar argument that Marx made, it strips us out of our context. It takes us away from our narrative. And I think that's a really good argument when you think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
because what he was trying to talk about, Walter Benjamin, is let's just think about the commodification of art. Is about how it's no longer about a pretty picture, of a flower or of a hillside or of a landscape. It's like it's about what's that picture worth? What's the commodification factor? And I think that's to a large extent what we're seeing now is that things are ripped out of context. I mean, the danger that we're now starting to hear about, why the artificial intelligence, chat GPT and that is that it's going to do something really powerful. It's going to steal our narratives. Narratives and stories is context. It's who we are as people.
That bring us together.
Yeah.
Well, that's that act.
Yeah. I thought it was McDonald's that brought us all together.
Happy Meal.
Happy Meal, yes, yes.
Or somebody happy eating Happy Meal.
I don't know. I mean, I think the context for America now is what? Sitting at McDonald's. Actually, I correct myself. It's going to McDonald's at Walt Disney while you are posting selfies of yourself on social media. That's the new context of America.
Not much of a context. This is just
not much of a context.
Now we want to end this with the story that McDonald's now has the first fully automated restaurant. So you don't have to even deal with human. You just go there, and you don't let people ruin your health. Ruin your health. Be a man.
That's right. That's right. So isn't it now? I can't remember with this. I know you can serve yourself. Have they gotten to the point of robots cooking the meal yet, or not?
I don't know, man. I'm sure it's all machinery, but I don't blame McDonald's. I blame the people who actually go there and their idea of meals and dinner and sitting together and social. McDonald's took the reverence out of eating. It was a very intimidating things to do, to have dinner. What's for dinner? And it was a very involving family things. Now you just drive through. It's like you go and fill up your car. And so, liberated the women from the kitchen. But what does the women do? They watch cooking shows.
So this is a whole different discussion, a different day about the fact that fewer and fewer people cook, yet more and more people watch cooking channels or something like that. I don't get it myself.
Professor David Schultz is a professor of political science at Hamlin, and he was
Latvia.
I was teaching the student there about the American Constitution, and good luck with that, Professor Schultz, and looking forward to see you when you come home. When are you coming home?
I am home at the end of the month.
Oh, wonderful. What a treat. Go there.